Hi, welcome to this week's Dragonblade Authors Unplugged. I'm so excited I get to talk to Cerise, DeLand, and Elizabeth Dunn this week. Ladies, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
It's my pleasure.
And thanks for squeezing us in. I know this is a busy week for everybody. By the time this airs, hopefully everybody will already be in a turkey coma with lots of cookies and all kinds of things. But let's go ahead and get started with the books because we have so much fun stuff to read this time of year, and hopefully there will be time to read it. So let's start with the Elizabeth's book, which is her Dragonblade debut. Yay! And it is
so excited.
Yeah, I'm so excited for you. It's Sophia's Letter, yes. And it's the first book in the Ladies of Monroe series. Can you tell us a little bit about this one?
This particular book or the series?
Both. Start with the book and then give us a series.
So Sophia's Letter is inspired by the story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning and Robert Browning, which is an incredible love story. Okay, it's set in the Victorian era, but mine's set in the Regency. That's what I write. And so it's got Sophia being affected by childhood illness, and her mother has passed when she was a teenager, and her father is very strongly affected by his wife's passing, and so he's not willing to have any of his adult children marry ever.
Oh.
So that's the premise, is that idea from Elizabeth Barrett Browning, but then obviously I run in different directions with it. And I have different villains, and the father's not really a villain. He's just brokenhearted. And I think that's part of what Sophia has to resolve, is to not take her father's sadness upon herself.
Yeah.
And we have just the hero for that. So Tobias Mannerly is just a sweetheart. He's the kind of hero that I've always wanted to see in romance stories, where he's just a happy person and he's not filled with angst or, like very super reserved like Mr. Darcy or anything. He's just a sweetie pie, and he's besotted with Elizabeth.
He's a cinnamon roll. We love him.
He only wants her to be happy, and he will move heaven and earth for her to be happy, and he won't take no for an answer. And boy, does she say no a lot, because she's broken, and he's just the guy to fix it. And I don't mean that she's like he's the hero, because for her to be brave enough to deal with all the things that she's had in her life, with losing her mom and being ill, and it's affected her health into adulthood, and dealing with her father, sort of basically crushing their universe into a very small space, just their house, really. For her to overcome that with his help is for her to be super brave. I loved writing this story. It was actually like I was like laughing and crying while I was writing it. So
I love that. I love a cinnamon roll hero, and I love it when the thing that's keeping the characters apart isn't like an evil thing. Like it's the father. Those are perfectly human emotions. You can absolutely understand why he would feel that way, and then it makes the resolution of that so much more complicated and so much more interesting, which I think is.
Now that was tricky, because in the original story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning and Robert Browning, they actually elope, and she never speaks to her father again, and that's not a nice thing.
No,
that's I had to figure out a way of making this father salvageable. How do we get him from a place where he is just so gutted that he won't allow his grown children to get married, to a place where he's actually attends their wedding? So
it's
that was a doozy for a while.
It's like Gus Portcullis in My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
I'm telling you, we'll just say that it's required for Sophia and Tobias to be a really good team.
No, it sounds lovely, and I like sometimes when there's a little bit less angst. There's a lot of space for a good.
The whole Jane Austen Darcy angst thing works well up to a point, but then I think especially nowadays, with all the, I don't know, life can get messy, and I want to be cheerful when I'm. I want there to be stuff we have got to deal with, but I want to deal with it with my best friend. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. And this is Sweet Dreams, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it's Dragonblade Sweet Dreams. So
the only angst there is sexual, because everyone keeps their clothes on. That doesn't mean I don't want to take it off. It just means that I don't. But there's lots of yummy moments. It's just all things that your teenage daughter can read without you sort of going, what have you got in your hands there?
Perfect. My girlfriend calls it all the sizzle, none of the steak.
That's it.
When you still get the heat and the characters falling in
Yes,
love
yes,
and
yes. Oh, no, they want each
the
other.
longing and
Don't
stuff about the
act on it in the book.
Yeah. Wonderful. So tell us about the series. How many more books do we have in this
There's
series?
5 books in total.
Oh, yay.
And they're being released every 3 months. So a year from now, we'll finish the series. And it's Ladies of Monroe. And I chose that name Monroe because it's the name for high mountains in Scotland. And I wanted to think about how my characters are each climbing their own mountain.
Oh, cool.
So the Ladies of Monroe, these are the ladies who, Monroe in the series is the name of a city. It's sort of like London of the North. So it's a fictional city, and it's I just didn't want to do London. I want to do something more in the countryside. So they're living in the countryside around Monroe, and the series is set in this fictional city, but it's because each of those ladies of Monroe must climb their mountain and triumph over some adversity, and the men as well. But it's about the ladies.
Awesome. Is there a connection between the ladies in
Yes, so what happens is we have a main character, or main couple, I should rather say, in the book, and then there will be important minor characters in that same book who are related to them or interacting with them, and then those important minor characters will become the main characters in the next book, and so there's a coupling, and then the final book kind of like brings everyone together again.
Oh,
so
wonderful!
Nice sort of everyone. I don't call it a reunion, but almost like hey, I remember you. You were in book one, kind of.
Yeah, I love that. I love that afterwards too. You get to see
like
what's
a Christmas special at the end of a TV series, the Christmas special. So next year, Christmas, it'll be a Christmas special.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Well, that sounds great, and I'm glad we have so many books to look forward to. And congratulations on your debut.
Thank you so much.
So the next book that comes out this week is Cerise's book, and it is Lord Appleby's Gorgeous Imposter. I have to look at it because I wanted to say Gorgeous Imprestor, and that doesn't make any sense. And it's book 3 in the Scarlet Affairs series.
Yes.
Cerise, can you tell us about this one?
Yes, I am going to try not to look at the camera directly, because what I'm seeing on the screen is me delayed. I'm not in sync with what. So if I look off and I look like I'm, on drugs,
we're going to call that watching the squirrel.
I'm doing fine here.
You look perfect to us, Cerise.
Yeah. Yes, Lord Appleby's Gorgeous Imposter. This is the third in my 16-book series. Thank you, God. I should live so long. It will be finished in 2027. I'm very excited. Anyway, I came up with this idea years ago and never really had the ability to implement the idea. My husband and I, since we became empty nesters, traveled a lot, most often to Paris and the environs, and we kept getting wider and wider. So I as we travel, so I knew many of these places that I wanted to talk about during the Napoleonic era. And so Scarlet Affairs is a series of romantic suspense stories based on actual events, real people.
Very cool.
That occurred between 1802 and the Peace of Amiens between Napoleon and the British, and the end of the war, literally the year after, 1816. So the first two in the series, Lord Ashley's Beautiful Alibi and Lord Ramsay's, yes, Joanne, what is it? Cerise, what is it? Lord Ramsay's
redheaded something.
Yeah.
She's a redheaded something.
Yeah.
This is how you know you've written a lot of books.
Hey, I mean, you got to keep up with yourself. So Yeah, that are occur in Paris during the Treaty of Amiens, and all of the men are employed by a semi-professional group of spies for the crown, headed by a woman whose name is Scarlett Hawthorne, and she is actually an heiress to a major mercantile company. And so she has money, beauty, connections, the whole deal that you need to move the story along. So, anyway, Appleby is one of her men, and he's in Paris supposedly doing his own shtick. He's working with money, don't we all? And he goes to the theater one night with Ramsay and Ashley, and lo and behold, there's a woman on stage who he's been looking for forever. And she says she is Charmaine de Massy, famous Drury Lane actress. But he knows just by looking at her that she is not Charmaine.
The beautiful imposter.
She is, yeah. She is Charmaine's younger, illegitimate half sister.
Ooh.
And the whole question is, what is she doing in Paris? And he soon follows her, discovers, she says, no, go away. He says, no, I'm here. You're getting rid of me. And she begins to look for the clues that will lead her to the people who abducted her older sister and really ruined her family, destroyed her family. And I get a real charge out of this third book because it takes into account so many real places. The theater that we go to is a real place, and the soon-to-be emperor patronizes this facility. We go throughout Paris, and then with the end of the Treaty of Amiens, just as we discover who the bad guys are, the treaty ends, and everyone must run back to England. And the problem is, of course, that the roads are clogged. You can't go up the Seine either. So you have to get out of France because Napoleon arrested every British citizen, including women. And when they go home to England, they discover the real reason that their missing sister was taken. And it's a real mystery that did occur to an English, a French family, and it is the beginning of a series of discoveries of double agents. So,
wow. So we get like a love story and a mystery, and then a mystery, and then like all kinds of history too.
Yeah, I love it.
So much good stuff.
Juggling balls, So, so I have had a wonderful time writing this series. A lot of people have just really stunned me with gorgeous reviews.
Oh, lovely.
They love the accuracy of the history. They love the drama. They like the romantic suspense, a little bit different. It's not a ballroom Regency. It's not it's a family drama to some extent, but it is done in real historical accuracy, down to the color of the paint on the walls in the Tuileries.
Wow.
Yeah, which were baby blue, and Josephine had it decorated in lilac silk furniture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my perfect colored room.
I can just picture that, right? So, so I've had a ball doing this, the next book 4, is in the can, as they say. So, and I'm really excited about that one too. So
Great.
I hope everybody's going to stick with me. We'll
Great.
learn a little history. We'll have a whole lot of tension and angst. My guy Appleby is very much like yours, Elizabeth. He is at heart a cinnamon roll, but he regrets that he was too much of a cinnamon roll.
Oh,
yes, and so that's why.
Can you ever be too much, though?
Yeah, right. That's why he's a bit of a hardtack here in this book, but all's well that ends well.
I love when there's history in the romance, because it's like it gives it such an air of authenticity.
Yes, exactly.
And for those of us for whom history was not a beloved subject, like it's really lovely to get to know, like to get to learn things when it's done within the construct of a story. Exactly. The Dragonblade authors all do takeovers on their release days. So I'm assuming if you're watching this that you already know that. But if you don't, you need to swing by the Dragonblade readers group on release days to see the takeovers. But you want to make sure you watch Cerise's, because she posts pictures from Paris.
Yes.
which like always gives me such envy. And I think you and I talked once when you were in Paris and the sky was blue behind you. And
yes,
I was like,
the blue hour.
How often do you go, Cerise?
I'm sorry?
How often do you go?
We go at least once a year, and we rent a flat in Montmartre, and the subway is just down the street, and we're on the 5th floor. And if you go downstairs, to the left is the wine and cheese shop, and to the right is the patisserie. And if you walk a few doors down, well, then that's the trottoir, where you can get the poulet rôti, the chicken. Yeah, you're right. Take your chicken home. Yeah, great fun.
Yeah. Well, I always have such I love to live vicariously through your photographs. So.
Thank you.
So your book is like a 16-book series, and Elizabeth, you've got what, 4 more to come? And we are bumping right up against the beginning of the new year. And so I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about how you structure your writing year, how you figure out what you're going to work on, how you pace yourself. Is there something that you do to keep yourself on schedule, or and then also how do you track when you're writing a long series, which a 5-book series feels like a long series, and a 16-book series certainly is. How do you keep track of everything as you're working your way through the year? Because the schedule is so far different than it is for the reader, who just reads from one book to another to another.
Exactly.
Yeah. So for me, it's a question of I commit to a certain number of words a day, and I allow myself weekends to catch up, because there's just some days where stuff happens that you weren't expecting, and so I have during the weekdays I have a certain number of words that I have to hit, and then on weekends I catch up if I've fallen behind. So that's how I get through a book, and I allow time in my schedule for when the previous book's edits come through, and to take the occasional day off, like a birthday of my son's or something like that. But that's simple. I'm very sort of I have those little goals, and they're easy to meet, because I said, okay, well, I've written that, and sometimes I'll write them in the evening, especially now when it's so dark at night. I prefer writing in the morning and getting writing done for the day. But lately it's been so at 5:30 it's pitch black, and I'm like, what should I do with myself? Oh no, go on a chapter. So that's how I approach my deadlines. But in terms of the series, I'm sort of like a combination of pantser and planner. So I can pretty much have a general sense in my head of where everybody belongs, and overall, I can sort of general view forward of this person needs to have that connection with that person and so on. And I'll make little notes for myself with each book to say, like, what have I learned about this character? What are the highlights about this character in this book?
That is so smart.
And then I'll copy and paste that into the next book and go, right, remember now,
That
blue
is
eyes, not green. And even things like important phrases that they use. I like to have each character have a little mannerism or a phrase that they tend to repeat. I like when I'm reading a book and the writer has set up that kind of little, like a little, on the tick, but like a little thing that you know they're going to do. So the next time they do it, you as the reader know it's coming, and you kind of feel so familiar with them because you go, oh, I bet he's going to say that thing he always says right now, you know?
Yeah, or the voice is so clear that you can tell who the character is without an attribution.
Right, but above it, that, yes, but also above and beyond that, a little mannerism they have, or a little expression they like to use, which they'll use under certain circumstances. And when I'm setting those circumstances up, I kind of like want the readers to go, oh, I bet you're going to say that thing he always says, you know? So they feel like they really know the characters, and they feel almost like the author. They kind of go, I know what this character would say if I was writing this now, you know? So I do those little records as well, like under each character's description and highlights of his journey or her journey, I will have those little expressions or mannerisms. I remember to repeat them. So there's continuity and predictability as well. So there's no, but that doesn't mean they don't go on giant curves sometimes.
But that gets you invested too. Like when you feel like you know a character, I think you get instantly more invested in them because you.
I also don't believe in like caricaturizing or stereotyping my characters. So I don't want to give my readers a nasty shock where they're so out of character. You say that they would never do that, but I do like to keep them on their toes and say, well, under these circumstances, they might well do that. And they've taken a little bit of a detour in their journey. So who knew? So I don't want to be so predictable that people kind of go, oh, well, what's the point of reading the book? I know what's going to happen, you know?
It's funny. Somebody at Pixar once said that, I forget who it was, but it was one of the story writers said that people want to work for their dinner. You know, so during the story, they want to work for their dinner. They just don't want to work too hard. And so I think the balance is figuring out, you know, like how
in romance where you know what the ending is going to be.
Yeah, especially in
expecting. In fact, whether I want to or not, I have to give you that ending. So I don't want to give too much else. I want to make it obvious at the beginning of the book how we're going to get to the end of the book.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's so smart. That because one of the things we count on in romance is if I give you my attention, my heart, you're going to give me a happily ever after, and I'm not going to be left hanging in some kind of Nicholas Sparks.
I want them to really root for the character. I want to see them struggle. Sorry, I have when I took part of in a workshop one time, the person was writing in their notes and just giving us homework, and she was saying, now my gorgeous evil authors, I want you to go and do this homework. And that phrase stuck with me. And so that year for my birthday, my husband made me I had a mug made for me. It's gorgeous evil author on it.
Okay.
So whenever I'm doing my writing, I'm a hot chocolate there or whatever, and I'm drinking my gorgeous evil author mug, and sometimes you'll hear me cackling to myself in my study, and you go, is that the evil part coming out again? You know? Well, that's true, because we have to mess with our characters, else they're not going through anything worth following.
Yeah.
My mom gets very cross because she reads my book. She goes, come on, give them a break now.
Cerise, what about you? How do you set up your year? How do you figure it
out? I have chosen my submission dates according to how I feel I can produce well. And that usually means that I'm producing 4 books a year, maybe with a short story somewhere here or there, and providing enough time in there to go to Paris, you know, and also to go to Britain, because, you know, research is important. And I usually wind up at about 1,000 to 1,500 words a day.
Mhm.
And how do I get there? Well, the first thing I do for a series is understand the arc, and of course,
Mhm.
here the big arc is, uh, is Napoleon going to win uh, control of the continent and the world, or is it Britain? And how do we maneuver through that attempt to take over the world? And then what kinds of problems do ordinary people encounter during those periods, so that you can get romance out of that as well as a bit of suspense? So I have a lot of charts. You may see it back here. I have a big chart that I scribble on all the time, with a map. Where am I going? What am I doing? And then each of those stories gets compressed into its own entity, with the internal conflict and external conflict of the two protagonists. What As many of you know, I've been writing, as we say here in Texas, since God created dirt. So my process over the years has really changed. And so has the world, the internet, the library system, the means
Research is
by
completely different.
research. Today, one of my major research tools is a service called British Newspapers. And I pay for this every year. And I have access to everything that was published, almost everything that was published in Britain, um, including Ireland, from approximately 1700 until today.
Wow.
So, yeah, so I can go in, I can plug in a date, and I can say, what's happening here?
What were people thinking about? What was the
Yeah,
common?
exactly. For example, I'm about to start book 5 in this series, and it's just before the Battle of Trafalgar. So what's going on in Britain is that they're very afraid that Napoleon is going to send his army across the English Channel, and they have sent British army and local militia to all the towns along the coast. And I have a couple of references where people are saying, "Oh, the local militia is marching again today, and they're playing their drums, and they're all very bad." And yeah, and people are running off with army soldiers, the girls, and so it's interesting. And yet, of course, people go to the seaside because they want to, dip in the water, and they also want to be with Prinny and see if they can get an invitation to the Royal Pavilion. So anyway, but where am I going with this? Yeah.
How you plan out your series, and the research part is really interesting to me. I had no idea that was such an available resource. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I think I pay $250 a year for this service, and I tell you, it's to die for. Gorgeous.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
But
historical romance for sure.
The way that I work, in short, every day, I get up in the morning, I have my coffee with my husband, who I am about to celebrate our 55th anniversary.
Oh, fantastic.
Congratulations.
Yeah, Friday. So my real name, of course, is Joanne Power. So we have an hour of power, everyone, in,
I love that.
in which we discuss everything, from the current news to family to what we're going to have for dinner. And when the hour of power is finished, I pick up a keyboard that I bought for $38 2 years ago and put it in my lap, connect it to my iPhone and notes. And this keyboard, for some reason, it just fits my fingers. And I can sit there for an hour and I can do 1,000 words. And after I've had my breakfast and shower and walk or whatever, I can go upstairs, transfer that 1,000 words, whatever. And that's my draft for the day. And I can usually get out of that with a little bit of polish, 12 to 1,500 words. So that's my process.
Fantastic. Ladies, thanks so much for taking time and giving us a glimpse into how your writing process works and how your lives work and for sharing your stories with us. I'm so grateful that you took the time to be with us today.
It's been so much fun. And Merry Christmas to both of you.
I know. So Merry Christmas to you too. And happy holidays to everyone watching from the entire Dragonblade team and all our Dragonblade authors. We're so grateful for you. So
thank you
so much for taking the time.
Bye. This was great.